Hey everybody, how's it going? I am your host Adrian, coming to you almost live from lovely Petaluma, California, here in Studio MC2 at QuickSurf Internet Studios. The Geekinator is a proud member of the Tech Podcast Network. If it's tech, it's here. Do feel free to head on over to techpodcast.com and check out all the other technology-related shows over there as well. I'd like to encourage everybody to visit us online over at quicksurf.com. Please do subscribe to the show if you have not already done so. If you're watching on YouTube, you can do so on the link above me. Otherwise, visit us on the web, and I have links, subscription links for an MP3, OGG Vorbis, and both SD and HD video formats that you can subscribe to using iTunes or the podcatcher of your choice. So please do that and help support the show. And with that, let's go ahead and get into the awesome stuff that I found for this episode. Over at Mashable, Lance Ulanoff has an article posted here. Could RIM become the biggest comeback story in tech history? Now, RIM has had a media event. They introduced the new BlackBerry 10. Pretty interesting. So he asked the question, too little, too late? You know, really, the last few years, BlackBerry has been really struggling, and, it's been unfortunately very public, and, we'll see. But in relation to that, Engadget has a nice BlackBerry 10 OS review that's been put up. Tim Stevens, the editor-in-chief over there, has a nice review along with a video of the new phone as well as the operating system. So by all means, definitely check it out, especially if you're a BlackBerry user or a former BlackBerry user, if you're hanging on to your old BlackBerry, hoping that something new and awesome from RIM would come along. One of the things that RIM also says, they're no longer going to be called Research in Motion or RIM, but just simply BlackBerry, since that's pretty much all they make is BlackBerries. So that'll be interesting as well. Something over at Engadget that I also ran across, THX, we all know who THX is, right? They have released an iOS app for calibrating your home theater's visuals and audio. Audio Titan THX has released its very first mobile app, and it's aimed at helping folks fine-tune their home theater experience. This is a good thing, especially if you have a home theater. It's dubbed THX TuneUp. It's an app where you can sling videos, photos, test patterns, and such and so forth to any display devices that are hooked up via an AirPlay compatible interface. It's only available for iOS devices right now. However, they are planning to release an Android version at some point in the future. So pretty interesting. I'm curious to see, how well it works in practice. So it'll be something to keep an eye out for sure. Over on the Apple front, Apple has officially made a 128 gigabyte Apple iPad. Now, there's been a lot of hoopla, people going, 128 gigs. Oh, no one's ever going to buy this. I know several people that would buy this simply because, and personally, I would buy it. And I'll tell you why. I have an iPhone 4S, okay? Now, the reason, almost unplugged it there. The reason why I would buy something of this nature is because I want my media with me on my iOS device. It's really simple. In my case, 128 gigabytes isn't enough. I'd love to have 256 or 500 gigs so that I can have all my pictures, every picture I've ever taken, so I can have every album that I have on my music collection is several thousand albums. Every album, no, not several thousand albums, several hundred albums. It's substantial. It's not a small collection. I would love to be able to store every picture that I've ever taken, even if it's like JPEG. It doesn't have to be RAW, even though if I'm shooting with my DSLR, I typically shoot RAW. But A lot. I've had a fair number of pictures that I've taken recently. Actually, for the last couple years, the vast majority of pictures that I've taken have been on my iPhone, and the DSLR is reserved for like more special type stuff where I want to have some really high quality archival type pictures where I've shot raw. But anyway, I digress. So I'd love to have every picture I've ever taken on my iOS device. I'd love to have my entire music collection on my iOS device. I would love to have, if not all of my movies, most of my movies on my iOS device, or at least most of my favorite ones. And the same goes for TV shows and any home videos I might have shot in. 128 gigs just isn't enough. Again, my movie collection is, not small. It's pretty substantial. I've been over the years digitizing almost all of my movies, and or if they've been available on iTunes, just buying the iTunes version. I get them in HD. Same thing on TV shows over the years. I've got several series, several seasons of several series. This adds up. So, I don't necessarily have to have all. I mean, Mythbusters alone could fill this iPad up. Every season they've done could easily fill that iPad up. Anyway, long story short, I would love to get to a point where, I have a tablet that has everything that, in terms of media consumption, everything that I want on it. And 128 gigs is great, but it's not enough. It's a nice start though. Also in Apple land, iOS 6.1 is now available. So I will be upgrading my phone tonight. I have it plugged in right now. I'm just backing it up and making sure that I'm not going to lose anything if I upgrade and it goes awry. But 6.1 has a little more LTE support for more carriers. iTunes Match subscribers can download individual songs from iCloud, which is nice instead of sucking down the whole album, particularly if you don't have the new 128 gigabyte iPad, and a new button to reset the advertising identifier. And I'm sure there's a bunch of other stuff in there, but still pretty neat. Over at Engadget, Stanford seizes 1 million processing cores to study supersonic noise. This is pretty neat. I saw this and I geeked out over it because I'm, into high performance, lots of storage, whole nine yards. So the Sequoia supercomputer and its 1.57 million processing cores, that is a lot of processing cores, will transition to a life of top secret analysis at the National Nuclear Security Administration. But until that day comes, researchers are currently working to ensure its seamless operation. So Stanford took the helm of Sequoia to run computational fluid dynamics simulations. Okay. They've got some pictures of this thing. Boy, this thing is massive. I mean, it's, if you've got 1.57 million processing cores, it's going to take some space. Also, kind of in the vein of lots of, in terms of computers, over at Computer World, Hitachi unveils its first 10,000 RPM, 1.2 terabyte hard drive. Awesome. Hitachi Global Storage Technologies. It's the industry's highest capacity 10,000 RPM enterprise class hard drive. It's the UltraStar C10K 1200. It's a 2.5-inch drive. You can get it up to 1.2 terabytes. It features a serial SCSI interface, SAS interface, a 64 megabyte cache buffer, and 2 million hour mean time between failure rating. And it uses less than 5 watts during idle mode. So, yeah, pretty neat. The one thing that I really wish hard drive manufacturers would do, kind of going off on a tangent here just because I can, the one thing that I really wish hard drive manufacturers would do is put more cache buffer on the hard drive. 64 megs, please, throw a couple hundred megs on there. Throw a gig on there. I mean, RAM is cheap. Load that bad boy up. A gigabyte of RAM. Poof. Do you have any idea how fast it would make life so much easier if you would just stick a big giant chunk of RAM on there, like a gig or a couple of gigs of RAM, Suddenly you're for 99.9% of what you're going to do, it is going to go as fast as the interface, just like an SSD, or maybe even faster than an SSD, and then it gets written out. I don't understand why this doesn't happen. I really wish they would. From Engadget, DARPA's 1.8 gigapixel cam touts surveillance from 20,000 feet. I thought this was cool. Again, I'm into digital imaging and that sort of thing. It's been 3 years since we first heard about DARPA's Argus IS, but thanks to the PBS Nova special entitled Rise of the Drones, we finally have more information about the 1.8 gigapixel camera that is supposedly the highest resolution surveillance system in the world. All I have to say is that is a giant lots of sensor with lots of pixels on it. 1.8 gigapixels. Whew. I mean, this has to be, just looking at the preview here, this has to be somehow, I can see a little bit of tiling on the preview, so there's got to be something where the sensor itself isn't 1.8 gigapixels, but it's taken a lot of pictures in rapid succession, maybe over a very large area, and it has a way of doing that and stitching it all together so that you get the effect of a giant picture. But still, nonetheless, it's pretty neat. There's a video here. It looks like a YouTube video, so feel free to check it out as well. Over at BBC News, in their technology section, Google is going to give schools a Raspberry Pi microcomputers. That's right. Schools around the UK are going to receive 15,000 free Raspberry Pis. The purpose is to create a new generation of computer scientists. Yay. I really wish they would do this for all the schools worldwide. I mean, 15,000 Raspberry Pis, considering they're, $45 a piece. This is not a huge investment. It's funded by Google. Raspberry Pi Foundation hopes the free devices will inspire children to take up coding. I hope so too. This is, something that, the more time you can spend on it up front and start to get, lots of practice, the better. There's a lot of, I've been writing computer code for a long time, more years than I'd care to admit. I'm much older than I look. Seeing a lot of the newer programmers come in, a lot of the code they write is just junk. I mean, it's not good code. It's terrible code. And, it's like, where did you learn how to code? Either they just never were formally taught, or they're just inexperienced and they don't know, a lot of the stuff that really makes it good. It's got to be readable. It's got to be maintainable. Spaghetti code is not a good idea, et cetera, et cetera. So I think this is great. Also on the Google front, Google Science Fair 2013 has kicked off. It's using Hangouts to help inventive teens. This is pretty neat. It's the Science Fair, something that started off in 2011. It's been going pretty nice. For 2013, they'll have Google Plus Hangouts on air for help and motivation, as well as to introduce the 15 finalists during the vote for a public chosen award in August. So pretty neat. Definitely check it out. From Mashable, see what astronauts really eat in space. I thought this was neat. It's just kind of one of those, this is just, point of interest on my part. Pretty nice. They've got a little slideshow that shows 52 years of astronaut food in space. I thought it was cool. Definitely check it out. And then Watson is heading to college, honing administrator pranking algorithms. So, Watson is one of IBM's supercomputers. The article comes off here. It's over at Engadget. I seem to have a lot of Engadget stories this episode. I don't know what's going on with that. There comes a time in every young supercomputer's life when he or she must leave the house. This is right. Having taken the world of game shows by storm and made appearances at places like Sloan Kettering, Citigroup, and the Cleveland Clinic, Watson's ready to go to college. So the advanced 3-year schooling will find a modified version of IBM's computer making its way to New York State's Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute. It'll be learning lessons in English and math, and amongst the course loads are plans to sharpen Watson's cognitive skills and ability to manage data. So pretty neat. They have a nice little video here. You can check it out if you so desire. That'll do it for this edition of the Geekinator. As always, everything we've talked about is linked up in the show notes. You can find those online over at quicksurf.com. Please do subscribe to the show, and I will see all of you on the next episode. See you then. Bye.